Authors Press.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Richardson and I'm from Authors Press. Today is October 14th, 2022. Welcome to another fantastic virtual interview where I'm gathered here today with Albert Lee Kelln, also known as Admiral Kelln, the author of Living the Miracles, A Sailor's Life in the Nuclear Power Age. Could you tell us a little bit about your book and about yourself as well, Admiral?
Well, I'm a naval officer. I am a native of Oklahoma and the University of Oklahoma, and then I proceeded to get an appointment to the Naval Academy. And that was the beginning of my journey in supporting the Navy. And frankly, I've been very successful.
So you did mention this already. It's noted that you grew up in Oklahoma and you attended the Oklahoma University for a year.
Yes, yes.
How did you get into the U.S. Naval Academy, where you graduated in 1952?
Yes. Well, that's an interesting story. I graduated from high school 2 years after the end of World War II. And at the end of that, I helped a young man running for Congress to put up his advertising signs and so forth. And after I was at the university, he had called my father and then wanted to talk to me. And I related that my stay at the university was in question because of lack of funds. But I had seen a bulletin in the university's library that there was openings in the Naval Academy, and I informed him I would like to have one of those because I think I could really enjoy it. And the next morning, the local telegraph deliverer brought me an appointment, a telegram appointing me to the U.S. Naval Academy, and off we went.
Did you enjoy attending the academy?
Oh yes, it was really interesting because it's a mixture of about 4,000 young men and now women. And
do you have any favorite activities?
Yes, and so being somewhat reduced in funds, I found a project which was called a football manager. And so for 3 years, I was part of the football team, trailing around all over the country. And other than that, I was pretty restricted to have dates or so forth because of funding. And so I had a wonderful Naval Academy period. The football players and I still communicate, and it was just an unbelievable experience.
What ship were you aboard during the Korean War? And what was your most significant experience there?
Well, after I graduated, I had qualified to be a naval aviator, but I had to go to sea for 2 years just to get aware of that part of the Navy. And so when that 2 years was up and I wanted to go to the pilot's training, I was informed that by my captain that my services were more needed during the war on the ship. But if I wanted to go to the Naval Academy, he could see and endorse positively my request. And that happened, and lo and behold, off I went.
This is not one of the questions, but I'm actually kind of curious for myself. Were you only ever aboard one ship, or did you do multiple?
I did multiple ships.
Okay. I was just curious for myself, and I actually think that's listed later in the interview.
Sure.
After nuclear power training school, you were assigned to the USS Skate, which was the first attack nuclear submarine.
Correct.
What were your assigned duties there?
Well, I had completed my 2 years during the Korean War, and I had gained admission to the submarine force, and that was kind of coincidence with the advent of nuclear energy, nuclear propulsion on ships. It was quite a big change in our capabilities, and so I applied for that and was graduated and assigned to the USS Skate, which was a new submarine, the first attack submarine in the world. And my job was to outfit and get the internal brains of the ship organized and ready for sea. And we were obviously under shipyard construction. And that was an interesting period. And so we were ready for duty, and let me see, what was the rest of your question? I forgot.
You answered my question actually. I asked you what your assigned duties were, and you told me that you helped ensure that the brains of the submarine were operating properly.
Absolutely.
Which that leads me to believe that you were not the bottom of the totem pole whatsoever there, were you?
No, I had graduated from the academy, and after a couple of years, I was a lieutenant junior grade. You start off as ensign from the Naval Academy and go from there.
Did anyone have a vested interest in the North Pole and the Arctic Ocean area?
Well, that's very interesting, because that's one that kind of snuck up on the submarine force. There was a interest in Washington. Remember that the president at this time had been our senior military man in World War II. And his question was, through the Navy, can our submarine force operate in that ice environment? Because the Soviets don't have missile defense from the Arctic angle, and could our ships operate from there? And the answer was, we don't know, but we're going to find out. We'll send a brand new ship up there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the only way you can figure out if something's going to work or not. You just have to try it.
Right.
What additional kinds of equipment and capabilities were installed afterwards, and who was put in charge of those equipment and capabilities?
Well, when we were assigned to go to the North Pole, we stopped our normal submarine operations in the Mediterranean and so forth. This was a brand new ship, a new capability, and this voice from Washington, we got it through the Navy headquarters, wanted a ship to go up there and test for the first time the ability of our Navy to operate from the Arctic, because the Soviet forces and defenses were all pointed south, and if we could operate in the north, we would have a great defensive organization if any military action occurred.
I see. When did the first through ice emergence of Skate nuclear attack submarine occur? And yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we were prepared and left, or actually entered, the Arctic initial cap on August the 9th, 1958. And while we were there, we had to go through a procedure where to surface in the ice, we had to stop in the water, deep water, and then with buoyancy, bump our way to a buoyant position and float up to the surface. We did that 8 times, and from the first one, which was very exciting, by the time we had gotten to our 9th surfacing, as we went through the Arctic and ran our computers and checking the bottom floor of that area, we were very proficient, and so it was a real thrill to watch the Navy come through with a 0 capability, and 10 days later, we were in command of that area if we so chose.
I understand that the ship received a high priority message while you were at sea on refresher training, while the crew had some downtime. Can you tell us about that event that occurred, the high priority message?
Yes, that was interesting because we had finished our operation in the Arctic of 9 days and called back home, had repaired the ship or gotten it back up to top notch, and we were notified that a important person was we were on sea operations would come to port and pick up a passenger. That turned out to be President Eisenhower's son. And he came aboard with great display of security for him. But he was on the ship by himself when he was with us. And the problem is that his father had 2 bills, congressional bills, on his desk. One was the formation of NASA to a capability, and the other is to get our attack submarines and our missile submarines under construction prepared to be able to operate in that type of an environment. And since we had been up there, we knew some changes to our equipment had to be made, and that was the important thing to do. The visit by the president's son resulted in a message 2 weeks later ordering us to go to the Arctic again in the dead of winter.
That actually led me to my next question. I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's what we did. And there's a little side story here. I had been the operations officer on the submarine, and as part of preparations, I'd been given an airplane to go up and measure and survey our prospective path in the ice to explore our capability, and that was one visit I had. um, to the ice by airplane. And then we had this trip scheduled by submarine, and that occurred 2 weeks later. And so we were very successful. But I had been to the North Pole twice. And the only thing I hadn't done is to go to the North Pole submerged in a submarine, because that's a wonderful capability and for war fighting and so forth. And on our after we had come back, the President ordered us back up in the dead of winter. We were there, and within a few days we were back at the North Pole. And guess what? We were able to surface through the ice at the North Pole. And at the end of that operation, I was told by the commanding officer that I was the only person ever to have flown over the North Pole, stood at the North Pole, and gone under the North Pole. And that I should be very proud of that honor, which was a nice thing to have. So
I can only imagine how that made.
Excuse me?
I said I can only imagine how amazing that made you feel.
Right.
And amazing is like an understatement.
Right. It's very complicated, but if you take it step at a time, and just like going through college, your first day in college is complicated, but after 4 years,
You got the hang of it. Yeah. So you actually brushed on this already. You mentioned that you went back to the North Pole in the dead of winter.
Yes.
And the Arctic winter definitely had thicker ice. Would you say that your equipment upgrades were capable of taking that down, those thicker ice sheets?
Yes, we had 2 missions to test that we were adaptable to the really hard environment, winter environment. And we checked out all of our new equipment to meet those needs, and surfaced and submerged and did those drills. So that was great. And then our patrol entered its top secret phase from the President, which is still today top secret. And we were to do certain things. And we did that as part of the defense of this country.
And I know that you just said that those expeditions, the Arctic expeditions, were classified, still are classified to this day. But what about the second Skate Arctic expedition? Was that successful?
Well, I'm not sure. That was our second patrol. That after the President's son had toured our ship, given the report back to the dad that, yes, he felt that the Skate was entirely capable, and off we went in the wintertime. And even today, we have submarines operating in that area, protecting this country night and day.
I actually didn't know that we still have submarines there. I had no clue. So that's really, really nice to know. Thank you for telling me.
You know, we once in a while there'll be an article in the newspaper or a photograph of them operating up there, and we're not always there. It's on a rotation, but it's really fun because we're rotating all of our new submarines through that process of operating in the Arctic. So it's a real thrill to see them go up, get trained, and come back and be ready to protect this country.
What major events occurred during your tenure as chief engineer of the world's largest and only nuclear-powered aircraft carrier? And Enterprise CVAN 65. Is that what it was called?
Yes. CVN 65. It was the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and because of my depth of experience in the Arctic and elsewhere, and as concerning the operation of the reactor and propulsion systems and the offensive systems, and I'm not sure what I meant. What the question was? Give me the question.
The question was, what major events occurred while you were chief of the Enterprise CVA?
Yes, right. And so the Enterprise was scheduled to go to the Mediterranean for a 6-month deployment. And I had been taken off my submarine duties to be the chief engineer of the world's largest ship, nuclear powered. And we spent 6 months in the Mediterranean. And then about the time we were ready to come home, the seniors in Washington wanted us to go around the world to come home. So we had left Norfolk, Virginia 6 months before and took additional 2 months to go around the world. And the highlight of that trip, besides introducing the security to other countries that we had magnificent capabilities, was that the people of Australia donated a gift to the children of the United States, which was turned to be out a female kangaroo young. And so, being the chief engineer, I had to build a cage and protect our guest. And the biggest problem we had was to keep the sailors away from feeding it, because they all in the depth of the night would want to sneak up and feed the kangaroo.
And then eventually you'll end up with a fat kangaroo.
Right. And so we put up another thicker wire, more secure, and stationed 2 guards. So here we are going around the world protecting a kangaroo with 2 sailors. And
snacks.
And the world wants to know what is our capability. And we tell everyone we are very good with kangaroos.
That's wonderful. And you're protecting her from snacks.
Yes, from snacks, right.
That's wonderful. That's so funny. Following the tenure on the Enterprise, you were appointed to be commanding officer of the USS Ray, which was still under construction at the time.
Right.
What were your main interests then?
Our main interest was getting a very capable modern submarine into Mediterranean waters because of the military activity there. And so the commander of submarines kept us in the Mediterranean back and forth at a fairly high rate. And but it was very wonderful to know that our submarine force had gained capabilities that we could do wonderful military patrols protecting our country from the Mediterranean naval area.
Finally, as a great naval officer who rose through the ranks to become a 2-star admiral in 23 years, that's
Yes,
that's
right.
a
That's
little bit
about
more
6
time than
years.
I've been alive.
Yeah, it's normally about 30 years, but
Right.
I and a couple of other guys went up very fast. I had a classmate that was in the space program, and he and I have both made admiral and high-ranking admirals in 6 years early.
That's amazing. That's like cutting off almost a third of the time. Can you tell us about this Naval Submarine League that you founded? How have those organizations survived over the years?
Well, the services normally, each branch, like in the Navy, there was an aviation organization, and it was just to kind of be an interface between the active duty people and Congress and other friends. And so it was kind of, it's hard to say, it's kind of an introductory or a warm group that we could solve different problems and capabilities. And we didn't have one for the Navy. And so after 28 years of service, after being the deputy director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the number 2 job in our intelligence world, I retired and took 2 years to mold together, get the organization and buildings and so forth done. And after 2 years, we had a Naval Submarine League, which today is very important in getting our message to Congress.
I'm glad that has stayed over the years, that it stayed strong.
Right.
Where can readers find and purchase your books?
Well, let me see. I kind of have to cheat on that because we have an organization. The address is, it's really Living the Miracle. It's a sailor's life in the nuclear power age. And our address is www.kellnlegacy.com. And we're happy. We send people who order books and we send them out and lick our lips with all of the stamps and stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or mention before we wrap this up?
Oh, that's such a wonderful invitation. I am so much full of so much knowledge that, and I'm only 93, so I need a couple of years to tell you everything I'm enjoying and done. And maybe someday we can meet again.
Yeah, definitely. I actually only have one more question for you before we wrap this up. But if you're interested in another book signing package or a interview package, we have plenty of opportunities available. But is this the first time you've ever worked with Authors Press?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And do you have any advice?
And I want to say, Authors Press has pretty girl ladies.
Thank you so much.
I'm really honored.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really enjoy doing these interviews. I feel like I give authors the road to be able to drive their books to amazing places.
Well, if you ever read my book and are interested in not necessarily the details, but
I actually probably will not read it. I will probably listen to it because I know that you have an audiobook available.
Yes, and that's cheating.
It's not cheating, actually. It highlights the same part of the brand.
Yeah, but it's the price of the book.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, boss. Bye.
That's all the questions I have for you today. So thank you so much for meeting with me and discussing your book. I didn't realize how much nuclear power has to do with everyday life.
Correct.
Yeah, I actually had no clue that submarines could be powered nuclear. Right. I don't think that's a word. Nuclearly? I don't think that's a word.
Well, that's a new one on me, but with nuclear propulsion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to YouTube the crap out of that later.
Yeah, well, if you ever have spare time, give me a call and I'll bring you up to date on some of our newest gadgets.
Well, that is an honor and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's all the questions I have for you today. So thank you so much for meeting with me. If you've got any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us either via phone number or email, and we're always here.
Oh, that's great. Good show.
Thank you so much. This has been Nicole Richardson and Admiral Albert Lee Kelln. Thank you so much for listening and watching.